While I was preparing dinner, a knock came. A police officer stood there saying my husband had died in a car accident an hour ago. My heart dropped, but I quickly shook my head. No, that can't be. He's upstairs. The officer's expression changed instantly. As I led him to our room, he drew his gun and warned, "Ma'am, step away. Whoever that is, it's not your husband. I'm 42 now, living in a glass and marble mansion in Bellevue, Washington, with a view of the Puget Sound that could make you forget your problems." But that night, 4 years ago, the view didn't matter. I was in my kitchen, the one with the fancy quartz countertops and copper pots I barely used, chopping garlic for a roasted lamb dinner. It was our anniversary, mine and Ethan's, 16 years. The rosemary was filling the air with this warm, earthy smell, and I was trying to pretend everything was fine. That's when the doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, annoyed at the interruption, and opened the door. Rain was coming down in sheets, and there stood a police officer, his uniform soaked, his face tight with that look cops get when they're about to ruin your life. "Ms. Christian," he said, soft but firm, "I'm afraid your husband was in a fatal car accident an hour ago." My knees buckled. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Ethan, my Ethan, the man I'd built a life with, the father of our daughter Casey, number. It didn't make sense. "You're wrong," I said, my voice sharp, like I could argue the news away. "He's upstairs. He had a headache. He's sleeping." The officer, his name was Jackson, frowned, glancing at the younger cop behind him, who looked nervous, hand twitching near his holster. "Ma'am," Jackson said, "his car was found wrapped around a tree on Highway 18. The medical examiner—" "No!" I snapped, gripping the door frame so hard my nails dug into the wood. "I'll show you. He's here." I turned and marched them through the house, my heels clicking on the hardwood like gunfire. My heart was pounding, but my mind was already spinning, picking apart the details. Something was wrong. Ethan wasn't supposed to be gone. Not like this. Not before I had answers. I pushed open the bedroom door, expecting to see him. Broad shoulders under the covers, brown hair fanned across the pillow. "See?" I said, my voice high, almost triumphant. "He's right there." But the officers froze. Jackson's hand hovered near his gun, and the younger one's eyes widened. "Ma'am," Jackson said, low and careful, "step back." I looked at the bed, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't Ethan. It was a mannequin dressed in his clothes, his watch glinting on its wrist, a wig perfectly styled to mimic his hair. I staggered back, my hand flying to my mouth. What is this?" I whispered, letting my voice crack, letting the tears come. Inside, though, I was calm, ice cold calm, because I knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't an accident. This was war. Let me back up. To understand this, you need to know who I am. I wasn't born into money. When I was 20, my dad walked out, leaving me and my mom with nothing but a pile of bills and a foreclosed house. While my friends were chasing college parties and first loves, I was learning how to negotiate with creditors and file incorporation papers. By 25, I'd clawed my way to 3 startups, each one a stepping stone. By 30, Christian Industries was worth $50 million. I was relentless, unstoppable. And by 35, I met Ethan Neal. He was charming, with kind eyes and a laugh that made you feel like the only person in the room. He wasn't intimidated by my success, or so I thought. We got married, bought this mansion, had Casey. For a while, it felt like I'd cracked the code. Empire, family, love. But empires don't run on autopilot. I was working 18-hour days, acquiring companies, outsmarting competitors. Ethan, he started to change. The man who used to cheer me on got quiet, distant. Our marriage turned into a performance. Smiles at charity galas, polite dinners, anniversaries marked by calendar reminders instead of passion. I didn't see the betrayal coming. Not at first. But then I noticed things. Ethan's sudden bursts of cheerfulness, the way he tilted his phone away from me, the black suit he wore for a casual dinner at home. His touch felt off, hesitant, like his mind was somewhere else. I started watching him, cataloging every detail the way I used to study market trends. And then I knew. He was cheating, planning something with someone. Casey, our 14-year-old, didn't see it. She still believed in us in the fairy tale of her parents. She'd bounce into the kitchen, all golden hair and teenage energy, asking to sleep over at her friend Melissa's house. Melissa's dad was a cop, and Casey idolized him, thought he made the world safe. I envied her innocence. She didn't know her dad was planning to leave us both. 3 days before that doorbell rang, I called my brother Gerald. We hadn't talked in months. He called me out for putting business over family, and I'd brush him off, but I needed him. "Look into Ethan and Wesley Stratton," I said, no preamble. Wesley was my business partner, the charming genius I'd given 40% of Christian Industries to help us grow. Gerald sighed. "Marina, are you sure?" "Just do it," I said, swirling the whiskey in my glass, the ice clinking like a warning. When Gerald showed up 3 days later, he didn't call ahead. That's how I knew it was bad. He sat in my study, a manila folder in his lap like a grenade. "You're not gonna like this," he said. I didn't flinch. I'd faced worse. "Show me." Inside were photos, grainy but clear enough. Ethan and Wesley, kissing in Wesley's car, checking into a hotel, entering an apartment I didn't recognize. 8 months of betrayal, time-stamped. My grip tightened until my knuckles went white. Gerald slid another envelope across the desk. Receipts, surveillance notes, Ethan meeting a guy named Tommy Travis. False documents, new identities, financial transfers. "They're planning to disappear," Gerald said. "Wesley's liquidating assets into crypto. Ethan's stealing your documents, insurance policies, contracts, offshore accounts." I leaned back, my nails tapping the desk. "Everything," I said, my voice too calm. Gerald hesitated. "Marina, maybe it's not what it looks." "Don't," I cut him off. "They think they can rob me blind and walk walk away. They're wrong. I stood, crossed to the safe in the wall, and pulled out my files. They'd been touched, moved just enough for me to notice. Ethan was already inside my empire, feeding Wesley everything he needed to gut it. Gerald asked, "What now? Divorce? Cut Wesley out?" I laughed, cold and sharp. Divorce gives him half. Number. They've declared war, Gerald, and in war, I don't negotiate. I win. I didn't sleep much after that. Not from heartbreak. Love had died years ago, but from strategy. I lay awake, replaying every moment, every glance Ethan thought I missed. Casey still chattered about school, oblivious, her innocence a shield I'd die to protect. Ethan, meanwhile, thought he was slick, humming as he scrolled his phone, wearing that damn black suit like he was auditioning for a new life. 2 days later, Gerald came back with a final piece. "They're staging Ethan's death," he said. "A car crash, insurance payout, Wesley moves your assets offshore while you're grieving. They'll be gone before you notice." I smiled. Dangerous. "They think they can fake his death and rob me blind?" I murmured. "They've forgotten who I am." I got to work. First, I called Melissa Connor, not Casey's friend, but her mom, a former military police officer turned private security consultant. Over coffee downtown, I slid her an envelope. "I need someone to play dead," I said. 50 grand? 1 day's work. Her brow arched, but she didn't flinch. "I'm listening." "My husband's planning to fake his death to steal millions," I said. "I want to flip the script. You'll be the body in the crash. The medical examiner owes me a favor." She nodded, took the cash, and we had a deal. Next, I upgraded the mansion's security. Cameras I could control, feeds I could edit. In the basement, under the guise of a wine cellar expansion, I had workers build a soundproof chamber. Steel door, cream walls, a bed, a kitchenette, comfortable, but a cage. When I tested it, the silence was so thick it pressed against my skin. Perfect. Ethan had no idea. He walked through our house, smiling too much, kissing my cheek with rehearsed warmth. That night in the kitchen, I tested him. "Wesley mentioned the Henderson contract," I said, watching his face. "You know that client?" His eyes flickered. "No, should I?" he said, too casual. His phone buzzed, and he silenced it fast. I smiled, filing it away. Friday morning, he kissed me goodbye, his lips cold. "See you tonight," he said, his last lie. I watched him leave, whispering, "Not tonight." By 4 p.m., my phone buzzed. Tommy Travis, the middleman Ethan and Wesley hired for fake IDs, was now mine. I'd paid him double to switch sides. "It's done," he said. "Ethan's car is wrapped around a tree. He's in my van, out cold. Deliver him to the house," I said. Melissa was already at the crash site, staged as the body. The medical examiner would confirm Ethan Neal was dead. That evening, I set the table for our anniversary. Candles, wine, lamb. Then the knock came. Officer Jackson stood there, rain dripping from his cap. "Mrs. Christian, your husband was in a fatal car accident." I let my face crumble, tears spilling. "No, he's upstairs." I led them to the bedroom where the mannequin waited. Jackson pulled back the blanket, his face hardening. "Where is your husband?" "I don't know," I sobbed. Perfect hysteria. Below in the basement, Ethan woke in his cell, staring at a monitor showing me with the cops. My voice crackled through the intercom. "Good morning, darling. You wanted to disappear? Here's your fresh start." He pounded the steel door, screaming, but no one heard. Upstairs, Wesley played the grieving friend, hugging me while Ethan watched his world collapsing. "You see," I said, "he's already moving on." Over the next week, I tightened the screws. Ethan watched Wesley unravel on the monitor, panicking as his calls to Ethan went unanswered. I sent in a fake federal agent, Stephanie Hogan, to scare my accountant Ivan into flipping on Wesley. The police arrested Wesley for embezzlement. The evidence I'd planted airtight. Ethan saw it all. His lover betraying him, abandoning him. In the basement, Ethan broke. "He promised he'd come for me," he whispered, tears streaming. "He's not coming," I said. "He's saving himself." 2 weeks later, I faced Ethan in his cell. He was a ghost of himself, pale, shaking. "Why not divorce me?" he asked. "Because you don't get to win," I said. "You chose exile. You'll live as Daniel Harkins in Montana. Never contact Casey, never come back, or I'll tell the world you're a thief, and Casey's inheritance vanishes." He nodded, broken. Gerald drove him to his new life, a small apartment above a bookstore. Ethan Neal was dead. Back in Seattle, Casey healed. My empire grew. At her graduation years later, I saw him one last time in a baseball cap, mouthing, "Thank you," before vanishing. I didn't need to see him again. My victory was complete. My justice flawless.